All right, ladies and gentlemen, to close today's program, we are honored to present our final keynote conversation, Dealmaking DNA, a conversation with a lifelong entrepreneur. This closing dialogue will offer a unique perspective on the drive, resilience, and lessons that shape a lifetime in an entrepreneur and deal-making. Please welcome our distinguished speakers. We have Bob Goldsmith, the founder and president of Northern Edge Advisors, LLC, and George Zimmer, founder of Men's Wearhouse and Generation Tux. Let's give a warm round of applause for our esteemed thought leaders.
Everyone. I'm Bob Goldsmith. As you mentioned, I'm the founding president and of Northern Edge Advisors. We're a boutique investment bank with offices in New York and Fort Worth and Toronto. I have the real pleasure of introducing my friend George Zimmer today. He's just a great guy and has broad talents and knowledge. Alongside his extraordinary success, he's always embodied the role of a mentor. Of a mentor guiding and inspiring others. George, we're delighted to have you here with us at the M&A Advisor Awards at the New York Athletic Club. Thank you for making the trip from Northern California to spend time with leading investors, bankers, lawyers, and accountants and others from the global middle market financial community. Perhaps you could start by telling us a little bit about your background.
Well, good afternoon. Well, I grew up here in New York. I was born in Doctors Hospital in Manhattan and raised in Stuyvesant Town. And then I had the good fortune to move to Scarsdale where I got my education. And this is the very first time I've been to the New York Athletic Club, which is why I made the trip in from California last night.
Why don't you share with us what first inspired you to start Men's Wearhouse and how you transformed that early vision ultimately into a public company?
Well, I started when I was 24 years old in 1973, and the main reason I started the Men's Wearhouse was I didn't want to work for my father or for anybody else. I wanted to create my own dream. And so I decided the best way to do that, even though my father had been a clothing manufacturer here in New York, and I had been a traveling salesman in Texas, I decided to open a retail store and called it the Men's Wearhouse. And the rest is history.
And so, George, Men's Wearhouse was this resounding success. What made it special? What was the unique ingredients? What was the secret sauce that made the company so successful?
Well, I like to think of myself as a business operator, not a private equity guy or money manager. And what I felt when I opened Men's Wearhouse was that I was going to focus on my employees and my customers. And that really stood me well over time because I ended up with 20,000 employees, most of whom really loved me, and millions of customers who felt similarly themselves.
Yeah. So you have this great run at Men's Wearhouse, and you've talked about the relationship with customers. You've spoken to me about that, and employees. I think you mentioned to me that you didn't take a paycheck since 1992 when it started. And then, tell me, that was a little bit of your attitude about entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, I started the company in '73, and in '92 we went public, and I decided then that I had enough money and that I wouldn't take a paycheck anymore. And that went on until today. I've had a company called Generation Tux. We're in the wedding business, and that's been in business for a little over 10 years. And this entire time, I haven't taken a paycheck because I want the people that I work with to understand that I do this because I love it, not for the money.
And so, George, you have this great run at Men's Wearhouse, and then in 2013, you were fired. And just tell us the story about that. What led up to that? Obviously, a big change, momentous. What just led up? What's the story behind that?
Well, in '92, we went public with a market cap of about $100 million. And in 15 years, right after the '08 recession, our market cap was $2.5 billion. So we had a hell of a run. But what happened with my board of directors is that I had named my COO CEO and started to have disagreements with him. And so I approached Leonard Green to see about taking the company private. And the representative of Leonard Green said that he could get me a 30 to 40% premium to my stock price, which excited me beyond belief. I was on an airplane the next day with my family going to New York, and I called the board of directors to tell them the exciting news that we had received this offer. And what I didn't realize at the time was that the board did not think that was a very exciting thing. I was so naive, I didn't realize that going private would threaten their careers, but they certainly realized it. And so the next week they brought me in and fired me without ever mentioning taking the company private. They just mentioned other disagreements they had with me.
And so, George, you go through this experience. I think it's deeply frustrating, disturbing. I'm sure you took time to reflect on what had happened and process what had happened. Certainly, you're in a position to play tennis, play golf, and do other things. What is it in you? What drove you then to start something completely new and to get back on the field and to start Generation Tux, the business that you currently run?
Well, it's not completely new because in the 90s, while I was running Men's Wearhouse and business casual had become very prominent in America, we needed another way to generate revenue. So we started the tuxedo rental business to complement weddings. And so after I was let go at Men's Wearhouse in 2013, after spending about 6 months trying to figure out what I was going to do, I realized that I was not made out for retirement. And so I took the best part of Men's Wearhouse, which was the tuxedo rental business. And as I've said since then, I love being in the wedding business without being encumbered by 1,000 men's clothing stores.
You started running businesses decades ago. You went through the Men's Wearhouse experience. I think you're well known for your leadership style, the sort of looking after all the stakeholders, consumers, employees, stockholders. Are there things that have changed in your leadership style from Men's Wearhouse to Generation Tux? Do you see things differently? Do you play a different role?
Well, I think the reason I'm here this afternoon is I no longer have any interest in a public company for the obvious reasons. Even though I was the largest individual shareholder of Men's Wearhouse stock when I was fired, I only owned 5% of the company, so that's how it happened. Today, I would rather just sell Generation Tux, so I don't have to deal with the public markets again.
And George, I find you there's just an intuitive merchandising sense, an intuitive business sense. Can you talk a little bit more about your current business, Generation Tux, what the model is, what makes it tech, what you're trying to achieve?
Well, we're in the tuxedo and suit rental business for weddings, and that's what we've been doing for about 10 years. But the most exciting part of Generation Tux has just happened this year. Specifically, we have signed contracts with David's Bridal, Kleinfeld's here in New York, J.C. Penney's, and Disney to provide tuxedos and suits for the weddings that they naturally do.
Fantastic. And then if you look at today's retail and consumer landscape, what trends do you find most inspiring or disruptive? What do you see on the landscape? What do you see affecting the market today?
Well, I think everybody is aware that AI is sort of the future in almost every sphere of business. And speaking of AI, there's a story I like to tell going back to the 90s at Men's Wearhouse. We had, my early partner was a computer geek, and he created the first retail clienteling system in the United States. What we used to do in the 90s, we would print on that green bar computer paper a list of every salesman's customers, everything they had purchased, the price they had paid, the size they wore, and the swatch that they had acquired. Every month, every salesman received a computer printout which listed all their customers and their purchases so that they could call them, and the word is clienteling, to suggest that they come in and buy something else. Now, this was 35 years ago, and today, this is what AI is going to be able to do like that.
Right. And George, you went from sort of CEO, operating a business, managing the day-to-day operations of a business. Today you oversee it, but a little bit differently. How do you view that? I guess a lot of private equity investors are not operating, they're not operating the business. They have more of a consultative and control role. How do you manage the business currently?
Well, I think the key to it is what I referred to a moment ago, which is these contracts that we've signed with 4 of the major retailers in the United States. We are going to be paying these people between 35 and 40% of the revenue that we generate from their leads. Unlike 25 years ago, when I made a deal with David's Bridal and we had to pay them $12 million up front for their leads, regardless of the volumes that were generated. So the current deal we have with these 4 major retailers is they get nothing up front and they get a percentage of the revenue.
Great. And if you could give a piece of advice to business leaders and financial professionals hoping to build something enduring, what would it be?
Well, I know you're in the private equity business, so your business is making money. But as a business operator, I've always said to people that if you are simply trying to make money, then you're not following your passion. And by following your passion, when you get to be old, like I am, you'll be much happier than if you were following money.
Great. I'm going to pause for a minute. Are there any questions, or start thinking about questions that people have that you'd like to ask George about his
And
career?
before you do, we'll call on you, but you may be wondering if I'm really George Zimmer. So let me simply say, you're going to like the way you look. I guarantee it. Question over there?
Thank you so much. The question is, what do you love the most about what you do right now in the business and in life in general?
Well, first of all, I have a wonderful team of executives that manages Generation Tux. I spend about 2 hours a week on it is all, so it really isn't my passion anymore. I do enjoy being successful in business, and mostly, though, I enjoy my 3 children and my family. That is really what has made my life meaningful, certainly in the last 12 years.
Great. Any others?
George, over the years, bell bottoms, striped suits, I mean, was there ever, how did you think of fashion? Was there a big thing you thought about, or is it, some charity things?
Well, bell bottoms may be coming back, which may make the people in this room a little bit queasy, but I think that in terms of fashion, the fabric of the garment is really not correctly understood today. Too many people are wearing polyester clothing instead of an all-wool garment. At Generation Tux, most of our garments are made out of Super 130s and Super 140s, which is a high-grade merino wool, unlike the cheaper polyester garments that you see. So one last fashion thought for you is that you remember back in the 90s when clothing was made in Italy and there were a lot of oversized shoulders, and then that shrunk down, but now I think that's coming back and you're going to see the oversized clothing again.
Hi, George. My name is Tosin. I'm a tech founder. I'm really curious how you were able to grow your business from 200 million to 1.2 billion over 15 years' time. Do you mind digging in on some of the strategies you used at the early stage to grow the business?
I couldn't understand.
Yeah, it was a little bit hard to with the mic. I think your question was, how did he build the business from 200 million to...
Yeah, just the strategies that he used at the early stage to really scale.
From
strategies
the
to-
market cap of a... Well, certainly luck had a lot to do with that. And as I like to say to Bob, I said it at lunch, over my 40-year career at Men's, we would have battles with individual men's retailers all across America. And we ended up winning 100 of those battles, losing none, and having one tie. So on the way to developing a $2.5 billion company, we put a lot of independent men's clothing operations out of business, but we usually acquired their assets and their inventory when they closed their doors.
So, George, another question for me. I found with you and other sort of iconic retailers that you're very numerate, very quick on the numbers, a real sense of merchandising. We have a group here that is highly quantitative, highly analytical, and used to really evaluating businesses in part on purely numeric information. But a true merchant and successful business person in this arena, there is a lot of just feel. There is a lot of accumulated knowledge. There is a sense of consumer behavior. How, in your mind, how much of it are you relying? I mean, I know you rely on the statements and the results and the performance, but how much of it is just understanding where people are going to buy, what cut they're going to want, their buying decisions? How much of it is just your knowledge, your expertise, your experience, and just what you're born with?
Well, I'm not sure you're born with it per se. You acquire the knowledge over a career, over a lifetime. So today I could probably tell every man in this room what size he wears, even if you didn't agree. That would be the correct size, the one I told you, not the one you thought.
So I would lie about my height, and someone else would lie about something else.
And men, one of the ways in Generation Tux that we've been successful is we ask our customers for 4 pieces of data that they can enter on their computer: their height, their weight, their shoe size, and the waist on their most recent jeans purchase. And what we found is that men lie about those numbers all the time. So about 15% of the business we do, we have to reship, usually because the man has lied either about saying his foot is bigger, he's taller, or he's lighter.
And you have opened up some showrooms. So do you, right? Because this started out really online. So is that how you're managing to get better information? In other words, if someone comes in versus if they fill out the information online?
Yeah, the showrooms, we have a half a dozen showrooms, including our most recent one, which is going to be inside Kleinfeld's. And I think the operative word in the showroom and in business in general is trust. People have lost so much of the trust that they used to have about their everyday life, that what we have done at Gen Tux and previously at Men's Wearhouse was create a strong sense of trust so that they believe what the salesman tells them.
Very good. Other questions? Hey, Roger.
Hey, Bob. How are you? George, thanks for coming here. I'm Roger Aguinaldo, the founder and CEO of the Deal Forum here, M&A Advisor. So it's wonderful to have entrepreneurs actually come to our private equity and M&A event here every year at the New York Athletic Club. So it's wonderful to have you here. I am a client and a customer of your old firm, Men's Wearhouse. I just didn't know about Generation Tux. I actually have 3 questions. One of which is serious, and 2 are just, you can answer it if you want. One, private equity. I guess you went public in the 90s, and private equity wasn't certainly, as developed or mature as it is. If you didn't go public, would you have waited and maybe kept the company private? If you were selling in the 2000s, or did you actually needed capital, or was it a good thing to do that? So that's one. Number 2 is, want to get your opinion on microplastics. all right? So when you wear polyester and all that, this thing about microplastics on your body when you could just have, cotton and wool. And the third question I have is, guess my size. I'm about 5'6". My shoe size is 8.5. My waist is 29-30. And what was the other thing I have to give you? My pound, about 140 pounds. Now, 3 of those 4 are actually true. I did lie about one of them, so go ahead.
You're a 39 short. What are you?
40 short. Very good.
Okay, well, you know what? You could be a 39 short.
Okay.
So
hard to get the 39s, though. It's either 38 or 39. Okay, thank you.
Microplastics are a big problem on planet Earth, and I don't know if anybody has discussed polyester clothing in terms of its impact on microplastics. And then what was your other question?
That was the serious one, which was private equity. Would you have sold, when you went public in the 90s, right, when private equity wasn't as mature as it is today, if you could predict the future that private equity would be a market, would you have stayed private?
Well, Bear Stearns took us public, so that ought to tell you quite a bit about my state of mind at the time. They flew me up to New York. I was living in Texas, and they wanted to question me about whether I had the appropriate ethics and morality to be the CEO of a public company, which is quite ironic considering what happened to them. To answer your question specifically, I had started Men's Wearhouse at the age of 24. And after 19 years, I wanted to make some money. And so when we went public in 1992 with a market cap of about $100 million, we raised $7 million in the initial proceeds. And that's why I stopped paying myself after that, because I felt so much money. Would I have waited for private equity? Probably not. The company didn't need the money, but I wanted the money, so I would have probably gone public.
Thank you.
Okay. And I guess one other question for me is, George, what was it like? You started the business with your father, right? You were in business with him. And then what happened? You started the retail portion of the business and then men's. What was it like working with your father and then I think also your brother?
Yeah. Well, my dad started his career at Robert Hall Clothes here in New York City back after World War II. And he ended up going into Chapter 11 in the early 80s and then coming to work for Men's Wearhouse. He became my senior vice president in charge of real estate because he understood retail real estate, having done it at Robert Hall. So I had the incredible privilege of having my dad report to me twice a week about all the locations around America that he was picking out, because we were opening 50 stores a year in the 90s, and that was his main job. So, yeah, it was quite something to be able to have your dad report to you and have to criticize your dad when he made a mistake. That was quite an awkward moment.
Okay, I can imagine. And I guess 2 more questions. One is, how big we don't have to talk about numbers, but in terms of growth and ambition, Generation Tux, You've really positioned the business. What are your expectations? How far do you want to take it? How big could it get?
Well, I think that Generation Tux is going to become the dominant wedding player in the United States. Right now, Men's Wearhouse is, but their business is down about 20% this year after having dropped a similar amount last year. So I think it's just a matter of a few years before Generation Tux overtakes Men's Wearhouse and we become the dominant wedding player in America.
Amazing. You're certainly well positioned to do that. I guess the last thing is just an open-ended question, which is any piece of advice to successful younger business people trying to have impact, have success commercially, economically, and also lead a meaningful life? You've certainly done lots of things in your life.
Well, you know, I have 3 kids, and I tell them all the same thing, which is that what's important in life is the person you select as your mate and the family you're able to create. That's about 2/3 of life's success or happiness. Only 1/3 is your career or the amount of money you make. So I advise my children, and they range from 23 to 41, that they need to make sure they have their private lives in order before they embark on a career.
Okay, unless there are any other questions, I'd like to thank all of you for joining George and me. And George, I want to thank you for a terrific talk and for making the effort to fly in from Northern California to be with everyone.
And if anybody wants to buy Generation Tux, call Bob. Thank you.